Shalom. So, since the Exodus seminar has been so woefully disappointed by Dennis Prager's failure to bring high quality Jewish exegesis, drush into it, I asked my rabbi for something he thought would contribute well. And these are letters which the Rebbe sent to the Hasidim on his followers on various occasions. And this is from the 11th of Nisan, 5725. 5725 was 68 years ago. However many years that is. To my brethren everywhere, God bless you all. Greetings and blessings. The exodus from Egypt was ordained by God to take place in the month of spring. Moreover, the Torah has ordained that special care should be taken in order that Pesach, that's Passover, should always occur in the month of spring, Chodesh HaAviv. As it is written, observe the month of spring and keep the Passover unto God your God, for in the month of spring God your God has brought you out of Egypt by night. Deuteronomy 16:1. In order to ensure that Pesach should indeed occur in the month of spring, in view of the fact that our calendar is based on the moon and the lunar year is about 11 days shorter than the solar year, while the 4 seasons of the year are determined by the sun, our calendar provides a leap year once every 2 or 3 years, which, with the addition of a whole month, Adar, as this year. In this way, the lunar year is reconciled with the solar year, and Pesach always occurs in the spring. All the other months of the year and all our festivals are thus regulated accordingly, so that they too occur in their due seasons. The circumstance of the exodus from Egypt being in the month of spring is explained by our sages as a special divine benevolence in taking the Jews out of Egypt during the best time of the year. However, as in all matters of Torah, there are here also many significant aspects and lessons, both for the community and for the individual. One of the aspects, which I wish to bring out here, will become clear in the light of the circumstances preceding the exodus from Egypt. For hundreds of years, the Jews had been enslaved by a mighty nation which had subjugated all surrounding nations, imposing its dominion upon them not merely by brute force, its chariots and horsemen, but also by its overwhelming preponderance in science and technology in all matters which are now termed culture and civilization. The culture and civilization of the Egyptians were based on the forces of nature and natural phenomena, especially the Nile River. It hardly ever rains in Egypt, but human ingenuity developed an elaborate irrigation system, which had turned Egypt into a flourishing garden surrounded by deserts. These circumstances brought about a profuse idolatrous culture, which was characterized by 2 main features: the deification of the forces of nature and the deification of the powers of man, who was able to utilize the forces of nature. From here, it is but a short step to the deification of Pharaoh, who personified the Egyptian ideal of the Superman. This system, which viewed the world as a conglomeration of many natural forces, of which the human element was a component, coupled as it was with the philosophy of my might and the strength of my hand, have made me this wealth, kochi ve'otzem yadi asali hachayalase, led to the lowest spiritual, moral, and ethical depravity, which also justified the most shameless enslavement of, and most vicious atrocities towards the physically weaker individual and nation. The cult and superstition of the Egyptians reached their zenith at the time of the annual reawakening of the forces of nature. In this month of spring, the month which was under the zodiac sign of the ram, and the ram was one of the main sacred symbols of the Egyptian cult. Suddenly appears Moshe Rabbeinu with the divine tidings, "I have surely remembered you," Exodus 3:16. The time has come when the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has willed the liberation of the Jews from Pharaoh's hands and from Egyptian exile. 210 years had elapsed since the Jews were subjected to Pharaoh. Some of them already were totally immersed in the Egyptian culture. No help whatever could be expected from the surrounding nations. No single slave had ever succeeded in escaping from Egypt. There simply was no prospect, in the natural order of things, of liberating the Jewish people from Egypt. And yet Moshe Rabbeinu assures them that the time of liberation has arrived. However, there's one condition: withdraw and take unto yourselves a lamb for your families, and offer the Passover sacrifice. Exodus 12:21. Withdraw from the idolatry of the land, and take unto yourselves a lamb, that which was held sacred and deified by the Egyptians, and offer it as a paschal sacrifice unto God. It is not enough to deny the Egyptian idolatry in the recesses of one's heart, nor even in the privacy of one's home, quietly and stealthily, but it has to be done openly, without fear, in accordance with all the details which were connected with the paschal sacrifice in Egypt. If that is done, Moshe Rabbeinu assures in the name of the Almighty, not only will liberation from Egypt be achieved, but Pharaoh himself will urge them to leave Egypt, and the liberation will come not at a time when the forces of nature are dormant and concealed, but precisely in the month of spring, in the very middle of this month, when nature reveals its greatest powers. In this way, it is emphasized that our world is not a composite of separate worlds, a world of nature and of natural forces, and a world of the supernatural, wherein now one, now the other attains supremacy. There is but one and only God, who is the absolute master of the whole world, and who unifies the whole world into one. This recognition came to the highest expression at the giving of the Torah, the culmination and goal of the liberation from Egypt, which began with the words, "I am God, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. There shall be no other gods," etc. Just as in Egypt of old, so also nowadays, there are such who fashion their life on the basis of the deification of the so-called forces of nature, coupled with the philosophy of my might and the strength of my hand. Some have found a solution in that in their homes they make room also for God. However, in their social life, they follow the Joneses, and even outdo them. Comes the festival of Pesach, with the reminder once again, "I have surely remembered you. You have no choice in the matter. The Almighty remembers you, and you must obey the order of withdraw, to reject the idolatry of the land in whatever form it expresses itself, and to do so openly, without fear, and with dignity. Then you must also fulfill the take unto yourselves, to take yourself and all that you possess, all your capacities and powers, and dedicate them to your true, eternal Jewish self. Moreover, you must do all this in the month of spring. You must not allow yourself to be confused by misleaders, who would have you believe that since there is a flourishing world around us, the man in its center, endowed with supremacy of might and power, then these are your gods, O Israel. This is your idol to which you are enslaved, and there is no room, heaven forfend, for God. Rather the contrary. In the month of spring, God, your God, has brought you out of Egypt. God, who is your God, takes you out of slavery in the month of spring. while the world in blossom with all its wonders upon wonders helps you to see the truth even more clearly. And this is what God is, that God is the source of all life and being. Or, to quote the blessing which we recite in the spring, that God our God, who is King of the universe, has not made the world deficient of anything. May God grant that Pesach, the season of our liberation, should bring to every Jew and Jewess, in the midst of all our Jewish people, real liberation from all hindrances and limitations, in order to serve the Almighty with a perfect heart, and that the liberation of the individual should lead to the liberation of the whole Jewish people, to the true and perfect redemption through our righteous Mashiach speedily in our time. With the blessings for a kosher and happy Pesach, signed Menachem Schneerson, the Rebbe. One more letter. 11th of Nisan, 5726, 100th year of the Histalkelus Hilula of the Rebbe Tzemach Tzedek, Brooklyn, New York. To my brethren everywhere, God bless you all. Greeting and blessing. The festival of Pesach derives its name from the Korban Pesach, the Paschal sacrifice, which was the prelude and condition of the liberation from Egypt. As such, the Korban Pesach serves as a meaningful expression of an essential and all-embracing event in Jewish life. An event which is also a concept, namely Yetzias Mitzrayim and Zman Cherutenu, the leaving of Egypt, and the hour of our freedom, total liberation from Mitzrayim and attainment of our freedom. The Torah prescribes minutely the details which were to attend the Korban Pesach, how it was to be made ready, consecrated to God, and eaten. I will dwell here on one of these details and its teachings for us, here and now. The Korban Pesach, a lamb, which was held sacred and deified by the Egyptians, had to be reserved for a Korban by the erstwhile Jewish slaves to serve as a Pesach unto God. After being killed in the prescribed manner of Shkita, it had to be roasted whole on fire, its head, feet, and inwards together, Exodus 12:9. Everything connected with idolatry, from its highest aspects as symbolized by the head, down to the lowest and most insignificant details as symbolized by the feet, and even those things which maintain and feed the idolatry, as symbolized by the inward entrails. All these things must be abrogated and nullified. Instead, a Pesach unto God is to be consecrated, head, feet, and inwards, all of which is to be roasted by the same fire. This was to effectively symbolize the rejection of idolatry in all its totality and in every detail. It is not enough to reject that which constitutes the head of the idolatry, its wisdom, rationale, and intellectual basis. It is equally necessary to negate its feet, the power that which it claims to possess to trample upon everything and everyone, with all its means and methods. The same is true of idolatry on a personal and individual level. Here, too, there could be an idolatry of head, if one makes one's limited human intellect the supreme authority, recognizing none higher, or an idolatry of a lower order, the lust for power to trample and destroy upon underfoot and boot the rights of others, or even making one's inwards, belly, one's livelihood, the highest aim in life. In all the above instances and kinds of idolatry, the same rule applies. A literal idolatry is complete idolatry. What is true of Yetzias Mitzrayim and liberation from the abominations of Mitzrayim is true of Zman Cherusenu, our freedom and our concept of freedom, namely becoming my servants, God's servants. It too must be total. The determination to be a Jew entails Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice, which brooks no weighing and choosing between that which is down to earth and that which is in the realm of the head and intellect. Only then is it Pesach unto God. when head, feet, and inwards, all of it, and every part of it is imbued with the same fire, a fire that is thoroughly penetrating. In the preparatory days before Pesach this year, the 13th of Nisan marks the 100th anniversary of the historical demise of the saintly Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek. He represents perfection of the concept defined above of consuming Mesiras Nefesh, which permeates a Jew, head, feet, and inwards, every day, all year round. In him were combined the highest qualities of tzaddik, gaon, philosopher, mikubal, posek, and manhig Yisrael. Just as his gaonus penetrated every aspect of the Torah, nigla, nister, pshat, remez, drush, and sod, so did his leadership of the community and of the individual embrace all spheres, economic and spiritual, from matters of vital concern for the Jewish people as a whole to trivial problems of the individual, from encouraging agricultural pursuits among Jews and obtaining the necessary concessions from the government to providing a free loan to a single needy Jew, from safeguarding and strengthening Torah education among Russian Jewry at large to providing a melamed for a remote Jewish farmer's son. All of this he carried out with a consuming Mesiras Nefesh, with all his heart and mind and with all his possessions, with the devotion to the individual as to the community. To be sure, none of us can compare to the Rebbe the Tzemach Tzedek. However, being a true tzaddik and manhig Yisrael, he possessed the capacity to illuminate and bestow of his qualities to each and every one who is willing to follow in the path which he had trodden. Just as the gigantic sun is reflected in a small drop of water, illuminates it and makes it radiant, provided the drop is pure and clear and faces the sun. May God grant that the inspiration of the days of Pesach, fortified by the example of the Baal HaHilula, should permeate every Jew and Jewess with the spirit of Yetzias Mitzrayim and Zman Cheresenu, to be liberated with all limitations and hindrances, Mitzrayim and Mitzorim, Egypt, that is, boundaries, both within and without, to be servants of God, to serve God in true and complete freedom, thereby hastening also the true and complete redemption through our righteous Mashiach, that we may once again partake of the offerings and the paschal sacrifices, with blessings for a kosher and happy Pesach, signed Menachem Schneerson. Hope you liked it.